good evening. Welcome to Living Arts in Westchester. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Jackie Suarez. I hope everyone had a lovely summer. We have a great guest tonight. His name is Leslie Bloome. He's a fabulous musician, engineer, local right here in Cortland. Leslie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
I've been in hot pursuit of you. It seems like I've been trying to get this interview together for a little while.
Excellent.
You are the owner of DTG Productions.
Yes, I am.
And that's how I came to know about you. But as I've read more about you, I know that you've been in the music business forever.
Yeah.
You started playing when you were 8.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about just how you got started and what instrument you play?
Well, it's really not that exciting. My parents got me started on piano when I was very young. And as rebellious as I could be, I switched to guitar because I was like, oh, everybody plays piano. I want to play guitar. And I played guitar until about, steadily until around the 10th grade, where the school I was going to had a rock ensemble. And there was like 5 people who wanted to play guitar. There's a couple keyboard players and a couple drummers and a couple vocalists and no one playing bass. And they asked who wants to play bass, and I was, sure, I'll give it a try. And that was 10th grade. By my 11th grade year, I was playing gigs and actually out there making money. It was kind of funny.
Yes, what was the name of that band?
Oh, Donna Ray. Donna Ray was the lead vocalist. I think it was Donna Ray and the Rockets.
Okay.
And this is going back in 1982.
So was it that kind of edgy 80s, or was it more
No,
traditional
it was more,
rock and roll?
It was rock and roll. It was Mott the Hoople. It was Mott the Hoople? I can't remember. I remember we did a lot of Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith.
Nothing wrong with that?
No, definitely not. It's a cover band, but it was fun.
Yeah, so. Were you doing anything else prior to, was there another profession that you were pursuing as you were playing?
Well,
because I know that you're a sound engineer, so.
I am an engineer. I went to college to study music, and I was living out in Los Angeles, and my whole focus on being a musician was to go into studio work. And in Los Angeles, there's just tons of films, television. There's a need for studio musicians. I had a great opportunity. I was studying with one of the most phenomenal bass players of the time, a man named Jim Lacefield. He was a first chair session musician. And when I got out of school, I got picked up on a couple road gigs. And then I got offered a job on a cruise ship for Carnival Lines. And when I got done with that 5-week excursion, I got hired about a month later by another cruise ship, Princess Lines. And what turned into another 5 weeks turned into about 4 months and 3 weeks.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've actually fantasized about that.
It was, well, when you're young, it's awesome. Oh, God, it's a great job. The money, isn't fantastic, but you get to see a nice little piece of the world. You're traveling, you're playing music. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But when I got off the ship, I was, the girl I was living with, we split apart. When you leave town for that long, all your music connections, all your connections in general, go other directions.
Right.
So I was kind of left in a lurch, and a friend of my sister's, a guy named Geraint Bell, was a post supervisor for a company called PM Entertainment. They were doing kickboxing films, whole loads of kickboxing films. And he asked if I wanted to be part of a loop group, which is, they have, when they shoot a film, they do what's called a looping session. They'll have, let's say it's a fight scene, for instance, and the camera pans into the audience and there's 3 people yelling, "Get up, get up, get up," or "Kill him, kill him, kill him," and it's 2 guys and a girl. They'll grab 2 men and a woman into the studio and they'll all yell, "Get up, get up, get up," or "Kill him, kill him, kill him," or whatever it is to fill in the voices for those actors. And then they'll, on another pass, they'll maybe do grunts and moans for the 2 fighters. So every time your fighter throws a punch, you yell, "Ki-ai!" And every time he takes a hit, you go, "Ugh!"
So and that actually brings me to something, because you are a Foley artist.
Yeah, and that's how I actually got my start. The studio that they were doing this loop session in The studio is now defunct. It was called the ID Group, but it was owned by 3 musicians. And they found out I got off a cruise ship, and they were really interested on that, and they were asking me all these questions. Meanwhile, the looping session was shot on a Foley stage. And I was really, what's all this on the floor for? What are all those props for? What's this for? What's that for? And they were like, well, it's for Foley. I'm like, Foley? What's Foley? And they explained it to me in a way that a musician can understand, in a very, very, very straightforward way of creating sounds. And I seemed really interested, and they really didn't want to do it. They were much more interested in cutting effects and mixing. And they asked if I wanted to do it. And at the time, I was like, I'm in. You know, it's like, I'll do anything for $6 an hour. Count me in. And yeah, that was 22 years ago.
Wow. So that started in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So I guess you kind of got on-the-job training with learning to do Foley, and then got gigs, subsequent to that education.
Oh yeah. Well, the irony is that, as a Foley artist, I picked it up very quickly. As a musician, I picked up Foley very quickly. And at the time, it was all shot to multi-track or 2-inch tape, not digital. And so your timing to the sound, what we do is we recreate the sounds of the actors' movements, their footsteps, anything they handle, touch, or grab, like a coffee cup being put down on a table. Or
so you do that in your studio?
Yes, we recreate those sounds. We have a sister studio which is called Alchemy Post Sound, which does Foley, and that's our specialty.
Okay, and that's actually, I read that you're the only Foley studio outside of New York City.
Yes.
So if someone were working on something around here locally, they would probably come knocking at your door, being that you are. I've seen a bit of that documentary where you're explaining Foley, and it was actually quite an education, because I didn't think that people spent that much time. Why not just have somebody walking on the gravel? Yeah. Why would you put some gravel in your house and do it there?
Well, it's.
And I don't see it from a film perspective why that's necessary.
Well, when they record a movie, the sound recordist, their main job is to capture dialogue. So they use directional microphones that are hyper-focused on the actors to capture their voice and dialogue. And frankly, that is the most important sound element. Without dialogue, where there's no story, you have nothing, right? So the sounds of everything that they're doing typically don't get captured, like their footsteps. Okay. And or anything they're handling, touch, or grab. So we recreate those sounds. But more importantly is when the film is sold to an overseas company and they're going to dub it all in a foreign language, let's say French or German or Farsi or whatever. They remove all the production sound, and you're left with what they call an M&E mix, or a music and effects mix. And at that point, the Foley is really important. So that's really what we do. We do quite a lot of it. We do a lot of work for companies out in New York, but we're picking up a lot of work from companies in Los Angeles, Washington State. We actually have a studio out in Israel who got my name from I don't know where, and they've been sending us feature-length films.
Wow.
So that's been a very, very cool thing.
So would you say that you're more of a Foley artist now as opposed to a musician? Because I know that you have so many things going on at your studio.
I would say they're almost one and the same. Within recent years, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, Foley was finally incorporated into a union. But up until then, we were kind of left in a lurch. We deal with sounds, but we're not editors. We are performing, but we're not actors. We're dealing with props, or not prop personnel. In fact, the closest thing that you can come to us would be a musician, because we are creating sounds in time. And I've always focused and utilized my musician part of me as a Foley artist. Today, we actually are now part of the Editors Guild.
Okay.
And technically, I would be considered an editor, but I'm actually a Foley artist.
So what would be like the strangest sound you had to recreate? Or
Oh, there's strange sounds constantly. I have.
Or the most difficult, let's say?
That's hard to say. It's funny. It's there's a television show that I'm working on now. Is it okay to mention names? Can we drop names or no?
Sure, you can
All
drop
right.
anything you want.
I'm working on a show called Royal Pains. And there's always some of the most bizarre sounds you have to recreate. And we will actually create about 600 sound cues per day. That means they're sitting in the, in sync and they fit the picture, but the perspective is correct. The sound is not too close to the listener or too far away. They sound right. And in this television series, for whatever it's worth, there's always something completely off the handle. Like, I don't know, a waterbed that's set up outside. So, they're decided to set up a waterbed outside. So we have to recreate the sound of a person laying on a waterbed. And well, there's a water slosh to it, but it doesn't sound wet. It can't sound wet, right? So we have to recreate that. And along with that, we have 599 other sounds to recreate that day. So there's a lot of
they're filming this and they're sending you the footage, and then they'll tell you all. You'll figure out which sounds you need to recreate, or how does that work?
Well, what it is they'll shoot the film or this television series, and then they'll cut it. They'll cut it in exactly the way they want it, and they'll do what they call they lock the reel, meaning we're not going to cut anymore. This is it. We're done. We're done with editorial. At that point, the sound department takes over. So there's dialogue editors who work on nothing but making the dialogue work. There's music editors that cut music to fit the sound, to fit the music of the moment. There's effects editors who are cutting cars driving by and other hard cut effects that are easily pulled from sound effects libraries and inserted into the soundtrack. There are people who do nothing but backgrounds, the establishment sounds, the sounds of room tone, or if the scene is taking place in a country at night, there'll be sounds of night crickets. Or in the city, there'll be sounds of sirens going by, non-specific sound effects.
Right.
And at the same time, the Foley department takes over. And we're a team. There's an editor who, he or she, will look through the entire reel and cue up the reel in our program that we use called Pro Tools. And she'll tell us, or he'll tell us, exactly what sounds they want and exactly what spot on what track. Then that cued session comes to us, the Foley team, and an engineer, myself, and usually a helper, an assistant, will create all these sounds and send it back to the editor, and she will take those sounds and nudge them and move them frame here or frame there and put them perfectly into sync. And when she's done, everybody else's parts are done, they go to the mix. And a mixer will take all those sounds and blend them together and make it sound really cool, or hopefully really cool. And they do a very good job at most of the studios I work for.
It looks like you have a lot of fun doing what you're doing.
It's interesting. And the irony is that I started as a musician, and this came to me not too long ago. I started as a musician, wanted to work in studios. That's really my focal point. I really didn't want to go on the road. I didn't really want to travel as a musician, but that's how it ended up happening. But as a Foley artist, I have logged more recording hours in studios and have worked in more studios on both the East Coast and the West Coast than probably any other musician I've ever known. And it's come around in a big circle. It's kind of cool.
Well, it sounds interesting, and I'm also going to look for Royal Pains.
Yeah.
Is there a credit of something that will roll by and say it's Leslie Bloome? Or?
A lot of times they don't even bother. It'll have the sound on television. They'll credit the sound supervisor, or maybe the sound supervisor and the mixer. But if you look me up on IMDb, you'll see credits and more.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I saw so many films and so many different artists that you've worked with. So I wanted to maybe go into a little bit of your music life.
Yeah.
You're a member of New York Uproar.
Yep.
It's an 8-piece band, kind of bluesy, rock and rollish.
I would think of it more as a funk soul band, but yeah.
Really?
Yes.
So how'd you guys come to work together? Is this because you're all kind of accomplished in your own ways, or have?
I would credit that with the tenor saxophonist Mark Belladino. He it was his brainchild, and he knew a group of musicians, and he really wanted to play with them. And geez, one thing led to another. It turned from well, let's get together and just play some jazz, just some jazz standards, no big deal, to well, we're booking gigs. Oh my God, we got a festival here. We got to do all this other stuff. We need to produce an album now.
You became popular, without trying, or?
I wouldn't say without trying, but
What was a happy accident?
Put it like this: it's a happy accident. We're having fun doing it. When the fun runs out, maybe that'll be a sign for us. But at the moment, it's still going.
Well,
it's still going well.
Still going well. How do you find time to do that?
That's a really good question. Well, the fact is the musicianship in the band is, I would like to say, very high caliber. And, most of the music is charted out. It doesn't require a significant amount of rehearsals. I would like to play more. But when we play, we really go for it. And, it's really fun. Yeah, for all the players, and
I've seen some of your stuff. I've not seen you live, but we're going to be having a little clip of you guys performing at the end of our interview.
Yeah.
And I think the audience is really going to dig it.
We played the Peekskill celebration this year, and it was just a blast. And we had enough forethought to we should videotape this, And
yeah, was it down by the river or in the one on?
No, it was down by the river.
Okay, yeah, because I was actually at the celebration of the one I was just in downtown.
Oh, the Jazz and Blues Festival. Or was it the Italian Festival?
No, I thought the Peekskill celebration was kind of centered there as well.
No, there was a Jazz and Blues Festival, which my company supplied the backline for.
Okay.
Because besides being a recording, we were also doing front of house sound and rental of backline gear, and shortly we'll be into rehearsal studios.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, now with DTG studio itself, or the recording studio, you've got because it seems like you're spread so thin already. Who's holding down the fort there, or?
I have a couple different people I work with, but primarily an engineer named Carl Shillito, who is a phenomenal engineer. So the sessions that I can't make, he's on it, and he's just a great engineer. He also works with me through Alchemy Post Sound as the Foley engineer when when we do our television and our feature-length films out of APS.
Yes. Well, I like the just going through your website, the concept where you wanted to create an affordable space for the artist to really flourish.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's a lot of fun. I wanted to ask you, what is the isolation room? Is that when somebody's a bit misbehaving? Because you said you had 4 different rooms. You have the control room, the recording room, the artist room, and this isolation room.
Well, the ISO booth is more for just for separation. It's an acoustically tuned room that is large enough that you can set up a drum kit in there if you needed to, but it's more for vocals, or to put an amplifier in there. Our new studio is going to have a very sizable ISO booth, as well as a large live performance space.
Yeah, you're going to have to forgive me, because my mind, I don't know why I thought that was like a timeout room.
No,
so anyway, go sit down in that room for a little while.
No, we have a chair for my son.
That's right, you're married, you have 2 kids, right?
Yes, I do.
So how's that going? How's life over here in Cortland?
It's going great, can't complain.
Yeah.
I have a son and a daughter. They're both going to school here in the Lakeland School District. They're both great kids. They're healthy and smart. I couldn't ask for anything else. You know?
Yeah, that's the most you could ask for.
I mean, I'm very, very happy.
It seems like you are. I mean, I would be too. It looks like you have a really fabulous life going on here. Is there something that you have coming up, or some project that you wanted to tell our audience about, or what the direction you're taking now?
Well, our main focus at the moment is our new building. We bought a building in Peekskill. And I can't mention addresses, so I won't. Okay. But it's in Peekskill, and it's about 100 meters off of Route 9, very close, and it's a 10,000 square foot warehouse space. And Alchemy Post Sound is going to utilize half of that. And DTG is going to utilize a part of it too.
Okay. So what sparked the transition from?
We grew out of our studio.
Okay.
And it primarily Alchemy Post Sound.
Okay.
Our sister company has really grown exponentially. A true paradigm shift has occurred in the last several years in the world of film sound. Editors today are cutting typically in a program called Final Cut Pro or Avid. Both these programs now allow the editor to manipulate sounds in huge files and huge track counts.
Yeah, we do that here for, well,
Sure.
I'm learning to do a little bit of it. It's really complicated.
It is, but it's also, it's incredibly interesting. And but the point is that an editor 10 years ago, the film editors would cut. And then they would take their final locked reel to a large studio where they would do all the sound editorial on it, the dialogue editorial, the effects editorial, the music editorial, the Foley. And then they would mix it all at that big studio. Well, today, most of these film editors are mixing right in Final Cut Pro. They're doing all of their editorial right there. They're doing their music editorial. They're flying in their own sound effects. They're cutting their own dialogue. The program has gotten incredibly powerful. But the one thing...
This is just the Final Cut Pro, that the software package from Mac. Really?
Yeah. Avid is like its competitor, but it's really a flavor of taste of the editor, which one they like to use. They're both equally phenomenal programs.
Which one would you say is a little more user-friendly?
Well, the new Final Cut Pro, be honest with you, I don't cut video. I can only give you hearsay. But most of the Final Cut Pro people I know like the version earlier than the one that's out now. Most of the Avid editors love Avid, and they keep on the updates. Avid bought the sound company called Pro Tools and DigiDesign. So now Avid and DigiDesign are one and the same. And you have these massive track counts, and they can do everything in Avid. But the only thing you cannot do or recreate is Foley. Foley is a performance. It really requires space. It requires a Foley artist. It requires a Foley team, right? So Alchemy Post Sound is really directed towards those editors who have that Avid system in their studio, in their home studio, or the Final Cut Pro in their own home, and they're cutting and cutting and cutting away, and they need Foley services. And we're able to supply that. Alchemy is the only independent Foley studio north of New York and east of Toronto.
Wow, that puts you in a very unique position.
It does, and I'm very grateful for my situation, because with my experience and my client base that I already have, it puts us into a very good thing. And we kind of got thrusted into building Foley studios about 2 years ago in season 2 of Nurse Jackie.
Okay, you worked on that show as well.
Yeah.
So that's a really good show. I love that show.
Yeah, it's a very cool. It just got picked up for another season. We're going to be starting that in about a month. But Nurse Jackie, we were doing that over at Postworks, and Postworks had a Foley stage that was about the size of this carpet.
Wow.
And it was too small to work in. We couldn't make it work, to the point where we all threw up our hands, like, okay, let's just bring it over to my studio. And I, retrofitted my booth. My ISO booth for Foley pits, and the large live room we do all the other sounds for, and it worked. And it worked. We had a couple little notches to figure out and fix this, fix that, but it began to work, and a snowball occurred, and we're rolling with it.
Now that's the big warehouse.
We're rolling with it.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. So this has been so interesting and so enlightening in so many different ways.
Yeah, that was quick.
I'd like to have you back once you have your new space up, because I know that you represent artists as well. Why don't you let my audience know how to get more information about what you're doing and how to reach you?
All right. Well, you can always contact me through our website at dtgproductions.com.
Awesome.
And that's the best way to reach me. There's information and contact information and phone numbers and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, and you're like all over the web. So
We're there.
just put Leslie Bloome up.
Yeah. It's not. It's all a lie.
It's all there. There's no such thing as privacy anymore. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. This has been really fun. I'd like you to visit us on our website, Living Arts in Westchester. Check us out on the old YouTube episodes if people can't catch us when we're airing. Just thank you for continuing to hang in there with us. It's been a pleasure. Have a good night. Peace.
Thank you, Zach.
Hey, thanks a lot, everybody. Yeah!